AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from downtown Baton Rouge.
Let's ride!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. I'm Matt.
You're a loser!
Shut up, kid. Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
Miyosu. And Mr. Toby Tomplay. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there, make it a good one. Shea Dixon in 15 minutes from right now. Tigers hosted an SEC quarterback commit this past weekend. Shea's going to tell us about it in about 15 minutes from right now. I got J-Boy. Jake Crane will be here in 1 hour. Sean Salisbury in hour 3. Let us begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
I have been waiting a while for this segment. So, you probably remember LSU lost to Florida last year. You probably, or could even remember that LSU lost by double digits. It was 27-16. You might have intentionally tried to block out every detail of that game and how it all transpired. Do you remember what happened in Gainesville a year ago? Let me refresh your memory. LSU lost the game 27-16, but if I were to give you the box score, cover up the teams in the score, and hand you the box score, it's one of those where you'd be floored. LSU had 25 first downs. Florida had 13. LSU was 13 of 24 on third down, better than 50%. Florida was 3 of 9. They had just 9 third downs the entire game. Remember that? LSU outgained him, outrushed him, outpassed him. LSU had 3 penalties. Florida had 7. Time of possession, LSU 41-43 to 18-17 for Florida. Let me say that again. LSU held the ball for darn near 42 minutes of that football game. It is stunning when you look back at that game, at how LSU managed to lose it. So, how did they manage to lose it? It was one problem, one really big issue that would beget another big issue for LSU. And the big issue was Florida's pass rush absolutely annihilated LSU in that football game. On that day in Gainesville, Florida had 7 sacks, 7 sacks, 7 sacks, and 11 TFLs. What? 7 sacks, 11 TFLs in that ball game a year ago. It was one of the most incredible things you could possibly imagine seeing with how that all transpired, especially given how good that LSU offensive line was generally against the rush. On top of the 7 sacks, 11 TFLs, Pro Football Focus credited Florida with 14 hurries and 20 pressures. 20 pressures in one game. So, that obviously led to some real issues for LSU as they put together drives. LSU, in the first half, 13 plays, 41 yards. That's some Les Miles-ish right there. 13 plays, 41 yards, 6:45 off the clock. They miss a field goal. Tigers get down deep in Florida territory. Ultimately, after a TFL and a false start, they end up missing a field goal. The Tigers would put together a 14-play, 85-yard touchdown drive that chewed up 5:51 off the clock. And right before half, LSU put together a 12-play, 47-yard drive, chewed 3:17 off the clock. They got all the way down to the Florida 25-yard line. Shamar James sacks Nuss for a loss of 8. Tigers have to kick a 50-yard field goal before half. On the first drive of the second half, 15 plays, 62 yards, 7:44 off the clock, and your Fighting Tigers of LSU get all the way down to the Florida 13-yard line. They score a touchdown. Offensive pass interference. They end up kicking a 45-yard field goal. After a 15-play drive that covered 62 yards and ate up 7:44 off the clock. Yeah, that was a gigantic problem. And Brian Kelly knows it. When Brian Kelly was doing his media availability on Monday, and I listen to press conferences a lot, and when I sit there in these press conferences, I feel like I learn tells and what to listen for. Press conferences largely are very boring. But when you listen to someone speak over and over and over and over again, you learn based on their actions, their behavior patterns, what they choose to emphasize, what they choose to ignore, et cetera. You learn certain things. And when a coach is asked one thing and gives a completely different answer, he or she is indirectly telling you that's what matters the most. Like, for example, Brian Kelly had a question about explosive plays. Like, so far in this season, LSU's only had 3 plays beyond 20 yards in the passing game. He's like, what's wrong with the explosive plays? Well, he goes blah, 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 and finishes with this.
We need to score more points. I think really the issue for me more than anything else is converting in those tough territory areas and scoring touchdowns instead of field goals. I like the balance now that we have explosive receivers that can catch it, but we also can run the ball and get some explosive. We really struggled with that last year. And so where I'll really be interested in see where this thing falls is our conversion rate in the red zone and scoring touchdowns instead of field goals.
Brian Kelly's asked about explosive plays, and he diverts the conversation to red zone. Brian Kelly was asked about Florida's defensive front because it was, as I mentioned, 7 sacks, 11 TFLs, 14 hurries, 20 pressures. He's asked, hey, the Florida's defensive line, they wrecked you a year ago. How do you fix that? Blah, 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 blah.
And it really comes down to your focus and execution more than what Florida. And we respect the players that they have. Last year, we didn't convert. We didn't cash in when we got into opportunities to put touchdowns on the board. You know, we settled for field goals. So we have to score touchdowns. That was the case this weekend too, right? I mean, we get all the way down there on a drive, we're kicking field goals. We need to convert when we get into that tough territory.
Brian Kelly is telling you over and over again, like, they've got to be better in the red zone. Last year, your Fighting Tigers of LSU converted points in the red zone at an 83% clip. They converted touchdowns in the red zone at a 56% clip. That was 94th in the country. Typically, you want to be north of 90% getting points, and you want to be at about 75% touchdowns, 3 out of 4. This past weekend, you had 5 red zone possessions. You scored on all 5. That's fantastic. You kicked 3 field goals. You had 2 touchdowns in the red zone. You were 40% touchdown conversion. You needed that to be 4 out of 5. And if that was 4 out of 5, you blow the doors off of Louisiana Tech, and we're not having the conversation we are today. So, yes, they got to be better. And what derailed a lot of those drives last year was Florida's defensive front wrecking stuff. If you don't remember, and this is, by the way, there's 2 reasons sort of to believe that LSU could fare better. Shamar James last year led Florida with 11 tackles. He had 2 sacks, 2 TFLs, 2 passes defended. The great news is that Shamar James now plays for the Dallas Cowboys. So he will not be in Tiger Stadium on Saturday, at least not wearing Florida blue and orange. Tyreek Sapp was equally a nemesis. He had 8 tackles, a sack, and 4 TFLs. Shamar James, 4 TFLs. I'm sorry, Tyreek Sapp, 4 TFLs. He still plays for Florida. He wears number 94. You better realize where that dude is on the field. The third leading tackler for Florida last year is a guy named Jack Pyburn. He had 8 tackles in that ball game. I got great news. Jack Pyburn doesn't play for Florida anymore. He'll actually be on the other sideline in purple and gold. So 2 of the top 3 defenders in that game a year ago for Florida, well, one of them ain't going to be there. The other's playing for the other team now. You can keep going on down the list. You could look at Caleb Banks, who had a sack and a TFL in that ball game. By the way, he's the literal giant who I took a picture with and interviewed at SEC Football Media Days. 6'6", 330, a massive human, a mountain of a man, has not played in the first 2 games with an undisclosed lower leg injury, to be determined if he'll be available this week. Cameron James, still at Florida. George Gums Jr. had a sack in that game a year ago, still at Florida. L.J. McCray has a broken foot. He won't play. And then Brendan Bett, who is the spittor from this past week and the game against South Florida, to be determined if he'll be suspended by Billy Napier. It sounds like he's going to play. I don't think Billy Napier is going to cut off his nose despite his face. He's a transfer from Baylor, but that's another defensive lineman that's up in the air. So Florida's defensive front, just from what they were a year ago, is significantly lessened. And on the flip side of it, when you look at the LSU offensive line, even sans Braylon Moore, what I will point out is that while, yes, I fully and wholeheartedly understand the issues with Paul Mabenga, with DJ Chester, who a year ago in that game against Florida, Mabenga allowed 8 pressures, Chester allowed 4. Of the 20 pressures allowed, which is an insane number even to say out loud, 8 were Mabenga, 4 were DJ Chester. For what it's worth, in that game, Mabenga graded out at a 45. Chester graded out at a 50. When you look at those two, by Pro Football Focus, by the way, when you look at those 2 guys right now, again, I'm not sitting here telling you that either one of those guys are All-American candidates. What I am willing to tell you is that when you look at the job that they did a year ago relative to how they've done so far this year, Chester, for example, we don't know, he only played a handful. He played 4 snaps against Clemson. But DJ Chester, who a year ago against Florida graded out at a 50.5, this past week was at a 63.2, and his pass blocking grade, which is what we're talking about, was an 82.5. I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that DJ Chester is an All-American, but what I'm telling you is you have a guy who really struggled a year ago and in limited action this year has been vastly improved. Paul Mabenga, who took over in the A&M game and then became the starter. That Florida game was his first road start after Garrett Dellinger's injury, and he graded out a 45.8. Mabenga so far on the road at Clemson, his pass block grade was an 81. His pass block grade against Tech was an 80.7. Florida does not have the same guys they did a year ago. Mabenga and Chester have improved. Will that lessen the gap so you're not staring down the barrel of 20 friggin' pressures and 14 hurries like what we saw a year ago? You hope so, because if so, then LSU will be able to finish drives and convert in the red zone, like Brian Kelly said, and that is the key for LSU to beat Florida on Saturday in Tiger Stadium. I don't think it needs to go any deeper than that, because LSU is a better team, a more experienced team, a more veteran team, a more talented team, and they're at home. You just need to not let Florida end up with 7 tackles, 7 sacks, 11 TFLs, 14 hurries, and 20 pressures. Or 14 pressures, 20 hurries. Which is absurd to say out loud. All right, it's after further review. Show Up and Every Day is brought to you by Bud Light. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR. If you're getting out to Tiger Stadium this weekend, make sure you got plenty of ice-cold Bud Light for your tailgate party. Pick it up at great local retailers. Get the officially licensed Bud Light can and aluminum bottle. By the way, there's an awesome commercial that's making the rounds right now. It's a Bud Light commercial. It's a national ad with Shane Gillis in it. And they're talking about, like, he's on a safari hunting tailgaters, and they're at LSU. So it's an LSU. It's a hat tip to LSU tailgating in this national Bud Light ad. So you get to check that out with a comedian, Shane Gillis. Just whatever you do. Remember, drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR and the official beer of the Tigers. All right, it's after further review, y'all. Let me knock out a quick break. Come back. Shea Dixon on 3 will join us next. LSU had a South Carolina quarterback commit on campus this past weekend. How did it go? Could LSU end up flipping him? We'll talk about it with Shea next on AFR.
After further review.
Want a pool? Call Duplessis Builders. Want an outdoor kitchen? Call Duplessis Builders. Need anything like pergolas or putting greens to beautify your outdoor space and build your outdoor oasis, your backyard paradise? Call Duplessis Builders. Log on to duplessisbuilders.net, duplessisbuilders.net, duplessisbuilders.net. They're local. Derek is a local guy from Ascension Parish, went to LSU, still lives in the area, has built a company that was recognized this year by Pool and Spa Magazine as a top 50 pool builder in America. Number 26 on the list. Not 26 in Baton Rouge, not 26 in Louisiana. Number 26 in the United States of America. And that's based not only on the quality of their work, but their level of customer service as well. It's duplessisbuilders.net, duplessisbuilders.net. Like I love to tell you, they support the Tigers as well. Great NIL deals with some recruits coming in. Trade Green, part of the Duplessis team as well. duplessisbuilders.net.
After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
Yeah, rolling along on a Tuesday. Always appreciate our friends over at Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. You're going to be out at Tiger Stadium for all these home football weekends. Our friends over at Sunshine will have a big old green John Deere tractor out there, so get on by and tell my folks over at Sunshine hello. Sunshine, sunnyquip.com, sunnyquip.com. Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger, joins us every Tuesday. Talk a little Cruton. How are you, Shady?
I'm doing well. How are you, Matt?
Doing really well. Let's start with maybe the name we've all kind of been waiting on. South Carolina quarterback commit Landon Duckworth visited LSU over the weekend. Is this the flip target that LSU has maybe been rumored to be in the mix for?
Yes. These are guys who are going to be seniors right now and are seniors playing their senior year football before signing in December. So LSU, remember, had gone after Bo Bentley. He had committed to Oklahoma, and then that was early in the summer. Since then, they've been on Duckworth. And remember, we just went through a 2-month dead period. So this past weekend was the first time recruits could visit LSU. We've talked about that a number of times. And they had that on the docket for a while, and it ends up coming through. He visits, and he didn't say much after the visit. Then today, Hayes Fawcett comes out and says, hey, look, I think that he may stick with South Carolina. I think that my opinion would be LSU is going to continue to go after him, given that he showed enough interest to come in for the game with his mom. And look, hey, there's other quarterbacks out there they'll go after as well, but it's not a deep quarterback room after Nuss does a true freshman come in and help you anyways. I think you're going down the stretch here, Matt, over the next, 5 months, trying to flip a high school quarterback and also very much looking into the portal as they have the past 2 cycles to see what quarterbacks are out there. And I will note, Duckworth is ranked in the top 10. It goes beyond 50, but the top 50 quarterbacks on Rivals are all committed somewhere right now. So if you're grabbing a quarterback at this point, it is most likely someone who's already committed to another college.
Yeah. So it's interesting you mentioned the Hayes Fawcett report. Anything, I'm not asking you to speak for Hayes, but is it possible that after the visit to Baton Rouge, he just maybe realized this wasn't a spot he was interested in?
It's possible. I don't think that's the case based off, whom people have spoken with. I think that he's one of the marquee players in South Carolina's class. He's been committed to him twice now, opened it up before, and then committed again to Shane Beamer and that staff. So I think this is more of him saying, hey, look, I'm getting peppered with questions. Right now I'm solid. And that's the expert, Hayes said, hey, look, I think he sticks, but it's recruiting. We'll see how this goes. LSU's the main team pushing for him. So I'm not moving him off my radar yet. It's recruiting, so
sure,
can't do that.
He's a 4-star nationally there by Rivals in that composite. He's the number 85 overall player in the country, the number 8 quarterback there according to Rivals, so one to watch. Shea, as we look forward, though, to 2027, Peyton Houston, who's a giant prospect in Louisiana, is set to make his announcement. What can you tell us is the latest there?
Well, for a while, Matt, people thought he was going to go to Southern Cal, or at least that was the opinion of Steve Wiltfong, some of the national people. And then Oklahoma started to push, and look, LSU as well. All of them were pushing for Peyton Houston coming out of Evangel. He had a great year a year ago. Now he's a junior, so he's starting out his junior year at Evangel. But that's kind of the trio of teams that were really among many that had offered that were kind of thought to be in the lead group. And was in Norman this past weekend. They beat Michigan. He's got a good relationship with that staff. So a lot of them said, hey, we're putting our picks in on Oklahoma. USC might be a little far from home here. Sooners had a big weekend. This could have been kind of the thing that helps him feel like that could be the pick. I'm still on wait and see because Peyton Houston announces Monday, and this weekend he'll be at the LSU Florida game. So LSU getting the final visit, getting the chance to talk to him and his family before he makes that announcement. I'll wait and see. I don't think this one is one where LSU just doesn't have a shot and he's going to end up at Oklahoma. So battling it out in a quarterback class with a few Louisiana kids who have SEC offers, and then the younger brother of your starting quarterback who's in your border state that you typically recruit.
Shea, Shea Dixon's with us on 3, the Bengal Tiger. Shea, is that the crux of the issue here with a guy like Houston, is that it's the 27 class with Colton Nussmeier, with Elijah Haven, with players that maybe in Louisiana at that quarterback position are maybe thought to be LSU leans that are just more of a priority. So Houston's thinking, well, I got this Oklahoma offer, let me get out in front of it?
I don't think so. I think that it's viewed that LSU has pushed and prioritized him as hard as they have any other quarterback over the past few months, which, you could call a shift from how things play out, but that's recruiting. Even more so at quarterback in a class where you probably are going to take more than one guy. So I think that over time, different teams surge, but I would say that LSU is right up there with anyone who has recruited him the hardest over the past few months. And look, we'll see how it goes, like I said. But we've known for a while that there was going to be Haven in Baton Rouge, Nussmeier in Texas, and then Houston emerged pretty quickly as one of the best players in the country up at Evangel.
Malachi Ziegler's in Benton. He's the number 13 overall quarterback in the country. What about LSU's interest there?
Yeah, they'd had him at camp and everything. He does not have an offer, so the other guys all have offers. But I will say, Mississippi State's been all over him. A number of SEC schools are recruiting Ziegler heavily. So, yes, this is a nice crop of guys in state when you look at next year's class, guys that are juniors now, given that we'll have 3 of them that are going to finish not just highly ranked, but with offers from a lot.
Shea, you also mentioned, can you just check to make sure that he's still there? I'm not sure if he dropped. Do we still have him? Okay, let me know if we still have him. Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger, is with us here. I want to get a question in there because Shea did say something interesting there about LSU potentially taking 2 quarterbacks for next year's class. Thank you. And I'm curious if they can get 2 quarterbacks in next year's class. So I want to ask Shea that. Let's see if we can reconnect or call. We were trying to go over video chat there to see if we get better audio. I know sometimes people complain about the audio quality on the phone, so we're trying to go audio through video chat there, but I think we dropped. So we'll see if we can reconnect with Shea. We'll get Shea back. I'll ask him that question. Quick reminder here. Let me remind you about South Point Volkswagen. Louisiana's largest volume Volkswagen dealer, airline just north of Highland, or southpointvw.com, southpointvw.com. At South Point Volkswagen. Love telling you about our friends over at South Point because, of course, they're selling you great quality vehicles. The 9 different IIHS top safety picks, which is the highest safety designation you can get. You get the style, feel, performance of luxury, and you'll always get a great deal over at South Point Volkswagen, new or certified pre-owned. Remember, when you buy certified pre-owned, you get the remaining warranty plus an additional 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty through South Point Volkswagen with their certified pre-owned. So check them out online. If it's on the lot, it's online at southpointvw.com, southpointvw.com, or you can go see our friends at South Point Volkswagen, Airline just north of Highland, or southpointvw.com, southpointvw.com, South Point Volkswagen. What's your direction? All right, we got Shea back. Shea, I wanted to follow up with one thing that you'd said there. You said that LSU is likely to take more than one quarterback in the 2027 class. What is the probability of getting more than one quarterback committed in the same class? Okay. Or were you calling him or were you back on the... Okay, hey, it's okay. Calm down. Just call him back. It's fine. But I do want to get that one question into Shea, and we'll wrap it. And I also want to talk about the visitor list for last weekend and what we can expect coming up this week for LSU and Florida on a big recruiting weekend. So we'll reconnect here with Shea. We do have Jake Crane in about 30 minutes from right now. We'll talk some SEC. And speaking of quarterbacks, Sean Salisbury is going to be with us at the top of hour number 3. And we'll talk a lot of quarterback stuff there. All right, we got Shea. Shea, I got two more for you. One, you mentioned that LSU is likely to sign more than one quarterback in 2027. What is the probability of getting two quarterbacks in the same class?
I think high. It's kind of been the expectation from the start. I think everybody they're recruiting knows it. So I do. I kind of put it on that trio of guys. You've got a Baton Rouge kid, a North Louisiana kid, and then Nussmeier in the border state. So it's kind of the group I'm watching.
Okay. What about other visits from this past weekend for the LSU Louisiana Tech game? Any other notables?
Look, I mean, they have Lamar Brown back, all of those guys. That's always big to see, but it's kind of quickly shifted to this weekend being one of their biggest weekends, bringing back pretty much all their commits, but notably a lot of out-of-state kids, so like guys who weren't able to make it in for the opener, Trent Henderson, who is the number 35 overall prospect in the country. He's an edge, but Kevin Peoples got a huge commitment there. Not related, but Caden Henderson, also out of Florida, is the number 2 linebacker in the country next year's class, and will be a 5-star when it's all said and done. So kind of we see it a lot, but when you have most of your class committed and when you bring in a quarterback like last weekend, it's big news. But these games and environments matter, all about kind of setting the tone for next year's recruiting class and letting a lot of these guys for the first time see what Tiger Stadium's environment's like. And I guess if they follow Brian Kelly's rules, which he said just drink all day and then come out there and yell, then it'll be a great environment.
For the high school athletes, so drink water all day. That's what they should be drinking.
Yeah, I meant fans, right?
Yes. The high school recruits should be drinking water all day. Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger. What a time to be locked into Cruton as we barrel toward the December signing period. Shea, we appreciate you, man. Thanks as always.
Appreciate it, Matt.
All right, bud. Be well. It's After Further Review. Tuesday shows powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Quick break. Go around the SEC. Some Saints roster moves as well today we'll get into when we come back. It's AFR.
AFR.
Fall is here, and a great sign that fall is here. Yes, waking up and walking outside on September the 9th and being hit with a blast of 62-degree air in Baton Rouge is a great reminder. But also, when you go by Clegg's Nursery, and they've got all the fall decor. My favorite time of year to get by Clegg's Nursery. Now, my favorite time of year is the summer. I'd always rather 100 degrees and swimming and all that sort of stuff. Beach time, all that. Sun. But my favorite time at Clegg's is fall. When you go in and there's pumpkins and hay bales and squash and gourds and scarecrows and all the fall decor, all the earth tones, the browns and the dark greens and the oranges and the yellows. It is time to decorate your outdoor spaces for fall, and Clegg's can help you do it. All of that fall decor is arriving this week at Clegg's Nursery. All 4 locations of Clegg's Nursery. For more than 60 years, of course, I've been reminding you to support local businesses, buy local, shop local, and tell them Matt sent you in today to Clegg's Nursery.
After Further Review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
Over by the gate, Lordy, here she comes with a basket full of chicken and a big cold jug of sweet tea. I make a little room.
Few roster moves for the New Orleans Saints. Just get ready for this to be pretty customary throughout the year. The New Orleans Saints have signed tight end Jack Stoll to the active roster, so he's on the practice squad. They've now elevated him. He's been signed to the active roster. And now they've re-signed quarterbacks Jake Haener and Hunter Deckers to the practice squad. If you're scoring at home, this is now, they're not quite to the level of J.T. Barrett, who in one season with New Orleans, and Ross Jackson noted this today. I'd forgotten the number, but he noted the number today at LouisianaSports.net. In one season, J.T. Barrett was part of 23 transactions with the Saints, meaning like every time there's roster movement, practice squad, active roster down, cut, re-signed, all that sort of stuff. So J.T. Barrett went through 23 transactions that one season in New Orleans. So for Hunter Deckers, this is his 7th already. He's been signed 4 times and then waived 3 times. So it's 7 already for Hunter Deckers. And Jake Haener, this is his 6th. He's been signed 3 times from free agency, then 1 signing from the practice squad to the active roster, and then he's been cut twice or waived twice. So this is just going to be life for these 2 guys throughout the course of this season, as is customary. When you get into a given week, and sometimes there's injuries, you always look at like who's the last guy in and who can you move that you think will be protected from being signed off the practice squad to or signed to another team's active roster, and who you can sort of have quote unquote protected. And those are going to be the guys that are cut, and you just tell them, hey, just stay there. We're going to re-sign you today. Just let us play this game, or whatever the case may be. So as they continue to manipulate the roster numbers, just expect that a lot this year with Hunter Deckers and Jake Haener. I wouldn't suspect either will play this year. God help us if they do. But the more significant news, I think, today is with Stoll being signed to Jack Stoll being signed to the active roster. So would obviously anticipate him playing this weekend against the 49ers for the Saints. All right, it's after further review. We're glad you're hanging out with us here. Brought to you by Parish Restoration, parishrestoration.com. Kill mold, remove odor, parishrestoration.com. Talked to Jim Woodworth, just chatting with him last week. As a matter of fact, they were able to do, I'm excited to tell you, there's a pretty significant NIL deal we're going to be able to tell you about soon, but a member of the Tigers football team that, pretty popular member of the Tigers football team, had mold in his house, called Parish Restoration, dry fogged it, knocked out the mold, and as a result, was willing to do an NIL deal, do their testimonial. Can't wait to share that one with you. A very significant player at LSU, for the Tigers, wearing a number in the teens that is a very respected number. Let's put it to you that way. Anyway, parishrestoration.com, parishrestoration.com. It's a patented non-toxic dry fog, meaning that it's patented. No one else is using it. It's non-toxic, so it's safe for your family, your plants, your pets, everything. And it's dry fog, so it's not going to mess up your furniture, your carpet, your drywall. It's a dry fog. It's Parish Restoration. Parishrestoration.com, parishrestoration.com. All right, we do it every day about this time. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference.
Texas A&M!
All right, Mike Elko is giving the latest on Marcel Reed, who left the win over Utah State in the third quarter. Had some concern over his status for this weekend's matchup against Notre Dame. Elko said Marcel will be fine. That's where we're at, not allowing anything else there. Reed took a big hit from a Utah State defender, kind of stayed on the field, then later walked to the sidelines, but apparently is good for this week in South Bend.
The Texas Longhorns.
Steve Sarkisian gave an injury update on Texas running back Quintravian Wisner. Third-year running back missed Saturday's game against San Jose State. Sarkisian said he's not ruling out Wisner completely ahead of this week's game against UTEP, but would list him as doubtful with a leg injury.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
Tennessee's bringing Georgia into Neyland Stadium this weekend, and they are going to be without their 2 starting cornerbacks. Junior Jamon McCoy, who's a preseason All-American, and junior Ricky Gibson III, both of them will not play this weekend against Georgia. Sources telling Pete Thamel, who was the first with the news, both players missed last week's game against East Tennessee State. McCoy recovering from a torn ACL. Gibson hurt his left arm in the second quarter of the game against Syracuse and is still not good to go.
The Auburn Tigers.
Hugh Freeze has given an update on running back Damari Alston. Missed his second game this past week due to a shoulder injury, questionable for this weekend's game against South Alabama. Also, reserve running back Darrell Robinson was rushed to the hospital for a sudden procedure on a collection of blood in his thigh that'll sideline him for a period of time coming up.
The Kentucky Wildcats.
And Mark Stoops gave an update on defensive back DJ Waller, who missed the game against Ole Miss after suffering an undisclosed injury in practice. said status is up in the air. He said more than likely he will be out this week for the Wildcats as they play Eastern Michigan. He is still listed as a starter on the depth chart. All right, there you have it. That is around the SEC. Tuesday shows are powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Of course, it's Florida week, so you better believe Sunshine's going to have a lot of their great content from years past when they've gone with LSU athletes on gator hunts. Of course, Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana, a proud supporter of LSU athletics. One of the things I'm pretty fond of saying around here is that all officials are bad at their jobs. And I mean that sincerely. And whether it's referees in football, officials in basketball, umpires in baseball, they're all bad at their job. It's a job where everyone is expected to be flawless, and it's impossible to be flawless because you're watching very large athletic humans do things at seemingly superhuman speeds and abilities and agilities. And because there's 37 HD cameras everywhere, we all see when you mess up, and you are expected to be flawless, and no one can be. So they are all bad at their job. But missing a call real time is one thing, and then just not knowing the rules is another. A Big 12 officiating crew has been suspended following a rules violation in Missouri's win against Kansas this past weekend. So there's a play in the first quarter. Missouri scored their first touchdown, scored the first touchdown of the game. Well, Missouri was flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct. Kansas blocks the extra point, and they started to return it. Now, they were tackled before they could return it for the 2-point conversion. Well, the ensuing kickoff by Missouri apparently was illegal. The Big 12 officials allowed a punt to occur on a free kick, which is a violation of the NCAA rule book. That should have just been a kickoff. It wasn't a safety. It shouldn't have been a free kick. It should have been a natural kickoff. Well, they allowed a punt. Anyway, that Big 12 officiating crew has been removed from its next scheduled assignment, which was this Friday. So they've been suspended for a week because they're bad at their jobs. And it's one of the reasons why I often say officials should have to answer for their calls. I mean, they are part of the game, and they should have to answer for why they make certain decisions that they do. If coaches and players have to do it, why not officials? I understand as well that officials they're not going to be flawless. But when things like this happen, they do need to speak up. The good thing, so the good note here, is that at least they're held accountable in this instance. They made a terrible mistake and are being suspended this week as a result of that terrible mistake, as well it should be. But they should also have to speak to the mistake they made and why they made it. There have been instances in the past where we've seen officials have to speak for their errors, and I think this is one of those. I remember Jim Joyce when he kicked the call on Armando Galarraga's perfect game more than a decade ago, and just acknowledged it after the game. Did an interview, acknowledged that he blew the call. I mean, I think that should be part of every game where officials should have to speak when there's issues like this that arise. In any event, Big 12 officiating crew will be suspended for their assignment this week because, as we say, all officials are bad at their job. All right, it's after further review. We'll knock out our final break here of hour number one. We'll come back. By the way, speaking of people who suck at their jobs, there's an AP voter who sucks at her job. If you have not heard this story yet, my goodness, wait until you hear this next on AFR.
AFR. After further review, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana.
She thinks my tractor's sexy. It really turns her on. She's always staring at
Haley Sawyer has made her Twitter account private. It's probably a good idea. You might be asking yourself, Scone, who's Haley Sawyer?
Scone, who's Haley Sawyer?
Glad you asked, Muse. Thanks. Haley Sawyer covers Southern Cal sports, USC, the Trojans. She covers USC for the SoCal News Group. According to her Twitter bio, she's also an adjunct professor for the College of the Canyons.
Oh, never heard of it.
And CSUN, Cal State University, Northridge.
That I've heard of, yes.
Yeah. Well, as a result of her job working for the SoCal News Group, Haley Sawyer is an AP voter in the AP poll.
Okay.
The AP is the Associated Press. If you're not familiar with what the Associated Press is, it's basically a collection of news outlets. Almost like a, would you say, it's not a union, but think of it that way, like group of all the, it's a professional entity where all of the professional news organizations are members of the Associated Press. That's what the name says. And so every year for 100 years, the Associated Press has put out a poll. And boy, they came under a lot of fire back in 2003. Remember when they had the split championship with LSU and Southern Cal?
Mm-hmm.
Despite the fact that before the season started, we all knew there was the BCS, and that was how we were going to crown a champion collectively in college football. The Associated Press voted Southern Cal the national champion. So they awarded their championship to Southern Cal when LSU won the BCS. You all remember that. Anyway, I digress. Haley Sawyer has a vote in the Associated Press college football poll. She's a voter. And this week, Haley Sawyer moved Florida up 2 spots in her poll. Yes, you heard that correctly. Haley Sawyer moved Florida up 2 spots in her poll. I'm not sure if you paid attention to college football this past weekend. I know people have lives. You got a lot going on.
There's a lot of games, too.
There's a lot of games.
A lot of games.
A lot of you have kids. Maybe your kids are playing soccer. They're playing flag football. Travel ball and baseball is out of control.
It never ends.
It never really ends.
Yeah, no,
I mean, you might be in Cairo right now playing travel baseball. Who knows? Could be.
In Cairo, maybe, yeah.
I don't know. Isn't there a Cairo, Mississippi?
There might be. I have no idea.
Cairo, Indiana? Look that up. There's a Cairo. I've seen one of those street signs. Cairo, Michigan? Cairo, Indiana? Cairo, Indiana. Is there a Cairo, Indiana?
Illinois.
I was close. I'd passed that thing on those long rides up to South Bend years ago. Anyway. So Haley Sawyer. Back to the point. If you missed it, Florida was a 3-score favorite over South Florida, the Bulls. Played that game in Gainesville. And the Gators of the SEC, who were ranked 13th in the country, lost to South Florida. Well, after that loss, the Gators dropped out of the Associated Press poll. They're no longer ranked in the top 25, as you would think would be the case when you lose at home as a 3-score favorite. Well, Haley Sawyer said, no. I'm not dropping Florida out of my poll. I'm moving them up 2 spots. And so Haley Sawyer gave an interview explaining her, as if voting Florida up 2 spots after losing to South Florida isn't bad enough. This could be worse.
But as far as what my votes are and what my process is, I wake up early in the morning after covering a game late in the night before. Don't want to go too much into my progress or process or logic, but I will say I appreciate everybody's interaction on social media and all of your feedback. There's tons of people that vote on the AP poll, and it's not a perfect system, but at the end of the day, no matter who you pick, it does even out because there's so many people who vote. And like I said, it's really fun for discussion. It doesn't, probably matter in the end, but I'm glad that people are having a really good time with it. But as far as
I don't want to go into my process or logic. And it doesn't really matter because there's a lot of people that vote. If you've ever needed reason to never take a poll seriously, Haley Sawyer just gave you reason to never take a poll seriously. You want to know why I don't bother to vote at SEC Media Days on that crap? Because of stuff like that. Just to think, for many years, that's how you crown national champions. What do we think the odds are that Haley Sawyer actually thought that Florida beat South Florida?
I'd have to say pretty strong.
I think she just totally screwed up and doesn't know the difference between the two. It's also why I've said for a long time, when you cover one team deep, it is very hard to know much about the rest of college football. Case in point, Haley Sawyer. Sometimes it's better to say nothing and be thought a fool than open your mouth and remove all doubt. Case in point, Haley Sawyer. Hour 2 next.
AFR.
We're brought to you by Our Lady of the Lake, championship health partner of LSU Athletics. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU together, we roar. I love telling you about, obviously, the great work that Our Lady of the Lake does at LSU with the LSU student athletes. I'm very excited about the naming rights of the new basketball arena, which hopefully very soon will all be approved by the Board of Supervisors, and they'll get to break ground on that soon, and we'll start the progress of that amazing facility for our entire community and state. But it's not just Our Lady of the Lake here in Baton Rouge. You see, Our Lady of the Lake is part of the Franciscan Missionaries of Our Lady Health System, which is a multi-state health system that touches all parts of Louisiana and parts of Mississippi as well. And FMOL is committing more than $250 million into facility upgrades to continue expanding healthcare for all of us. It's Our Lady of the Lake. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU. Together, we roar.